Live from your house, it's the Weekly Spinner Rack. Musical guest, my throaty voice, and your host, me. Hi, folks. All right, just being silly, but welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Spinner Rack, where I am going to do some mini reviews of the comics that I've read this week. We're going to talk about the comic book news of the week. There's some good juicy stuff there, and I'll be drawing and taking your questions along the way. Let's see who's here right away. Hello to Aldi. Hello Steve. Hello James Stewart. Hello Iron Shell. We've also got Andrew Jefferson, A-Man, Philip, Ricky Prickle, Sir Mr. Howell, Tony, Clay. Awesome. Oh, somebody's saying that I'm set on top chat. There we go. Live chat. Anyone here from Ohio? Most of the audience here is actually from the United States, not Ohio. I'm just kidding around. All right. Hello to Joe Dent, Abel, Dr. Settleton, Daniel, Black Phoenix. This show is one of the few good things about Mondays. Yeah, you know, this is most people's beginning of a work week. I want to just sort of have something kind of fun that you can chill out to and relax, just sort of do comics. Yeah. We've got T.W. Mangrove, Robert Weichel, Cale Robinson, Jarvie Rocks. Wow. Great. Good. This is as it should be. Folks, I am pretty exhausted today. Last night, this was fun. I went out with a bunch of my coworkers. We went to one of their houses and sang a lot of karaoke. Had some drinks, played games. It was a lot of fun. Hadn't done that in a while. I was out till 2 a.m. It was a good night. It was really, really fun. But my voice is a little shot. I was talking loud and I was participating in a bunch of the singing for the karaoke and stuff. So my voice is just wrecked. But you've probably all been there. It's fun to be here and doing this. Definitely a little more low-key. I've got some comics that I'm about to jump into in just a sec. Excited to do that. But, this show has actually started to provide me with a few opportunities. I mean, this and my other show, Comic Tropes, to be fair. But I'm not going to go into the full details about stuff like this. Let me pause real quick, actually, from my personal news, because Jim Mahfood is, as usual, in the live chat, and he's not going to toot his own horn about this, but I want to mention it. It was pretty cool. The latest Saturday Night Live. Hey, and I started off pretending I was doing, voicing the SNL show. Latest SNL had a music video sketch that they did, and right behind Pete Davidson on the wall is a piece of Jim Mahfood's art. So that was pretty cool. I think it's fairly prominent. If you know what Jim's artwork looks like, you can definitely recognize it. So that's pretty nice. I need to sing from the diaphragm. I'm not a singer. I am not a singer. But I like to participate and stuff like that. Anyway, just going back real quick to personal news, and I'm not going to get super into the weeds here, but I'm working with two different people on doing some artwork for two different comics, existing comics. Like I would do, maybe like a backup page or a variant cover or something like that. Big publishers, big talent, but I don't want to say what it is just in case. What if it falls apart or something? And, and plus also, even if I did say what it is, it's going to take a while to, get it all done and get it out there. So I don't want people to be like, hassling a writer or a publisher about anything like that. But, yeah, kind of excited about that. So I'm going to be drawing some stuff. Yeah, Jim's saying, thanks, that was pretty wild, huh? Absolutely. But I'm not surprised that there are, stage directors or whatever that come up with the set look that like your work. So I just thought that was really cool. I definitely noticed that as I was watching SNL. So that was pretty cool. A few more people joining in, so hello. I see Sean Ali is here, so hello to you. Let's get started with some quick reviews. of some of the comics that I read this week, and got a sort of a big one here if you're into comic book YouTubing anyway. A lot of you know the Cartoonist Kayfabe show at this point, but obviously Jim Rugg has been producing some great books for a long time, and he is now doing one of the Marvel Grand Design books. And how best to describe this? Cartoonist Evan Dorkin had perhaps the funniest way to describe these. He called these book report comics. I have to admit, that made me laugh. Grand Design essentially looks at the entire history of a character and boils it all down. Gets rid of the subplots that never went anywhere, cuts out like the drama. It is to a large degree sort of a fun recap of a character's entire history. So, we're starting with the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff that Bruce Banner went through, and going on from there. One thing I think is cool about this is that Jim definitely plays with his own artistic style a bit. There's a page like this, or a panel, I should say, that definitely looks Kirby-esque, and then he's going to sort of do some of his own stuff. I mean, like sort of pop art design, and that wasn't exactly like how Jack Kirby was drawing, but it's certainly reminiscent of art styles that were being used at that time. And so he draws the Hulk in a couple different ways depending on who was drawing it at that time, and you get to sort of see all the big enemies and stuff. It's a pretty brisk read because you're just cutting out all the filler and just moving it forward. And Jim does some really playful design things as well, like these sort of montages where you're just seeing, for instance, a bunch of villains in this one. Or he's got some that'll be like, newspaper designs. So he does a lot of different things. I'm trying to find maybe another interesting, look, there's no reason to do it this way other than just having fun with the design. And it breaks it up visually. I think that helps because sometimes when you're just doing the recap, it'll be like, this panel's an important event, this panel's an important event, this panel's an important event, but it doesn't necessarily flow through in a clear storytelling method. Jim does everything he can to still have little moments here where he's sort of telling a story panel to panel. He's actually bringing us in and using some good storytelling skills. This is cool. Like, this is just the time in Hulk's life when he became a TV show on CBS. That's obviously not recapping a specific moment of the comic, but Jim throws it in here, and so that's the kind of fun stuff. I don't know. I did like it. This is like part 1 of 2, so this gets you all the way through Incredible Hulk number 300. That is a lot to recap, but it makes sense, and at the same time, this is one of the unique ways of looking at such a long bit of a character's history, which you can really only do with serialized comics, like superhero comics mostly, that have been around this long. And it lets you see how repetitious certain things are, how the Hulk can get intelligent for a while. The Hulk is assumed to have died for a while. These kind of things just keep happening. So that is kind of an interesting look at things. I do recommend it. I do recommend it. He came up with an interesting... I can't wait for the second book because he came up with an interesting design here. This is basically half of the image. The other half is like sort of the Joe Fixit Gray Hulk, and that book is going to be called Madness. So this is Monster, and then it's like Madness, Monster Madness, Hulk Grand Design. Jim put a lot of graphic design thought into that, and I think that's admirable. Something is Killing the Children is back. It was on a bit of a hiatus, and they sort of gave us a spin-off mini-series for a little while with some characters. But now we're back to the main story, and I'm glad. I think that there's a lot to like about this book. It's a good horror book, and it's starting to address one of the few criticisms that I had with the sort of initial run of Something is Killing the Children, which is just that the monsters
were kind of generic and they were always the same. Well, we're finally apparently getting some sort of a new monster here. It's only like sort of hinted at here, but it's a very creepy design where it's almost like a person, but it's hidden in shadow, and there's weird things that are happening with the body. There's like some body horror where we're seeing like, you know, a cut shoulder with teeth and an eyeball in there and stuff. Good. That's some innovative design. So that's a step forward in my opinion. We're introduced to some new characters because we're just telling a new story. So this is a good jumping on point too. Issue 21. I've recommended it before. This issue in and of itself, I can't say that you're going to get like, you know, 100% satisfaction with a single issue. This is a story that's told in like, you know, 5 to 6 issue arcs. That's just the nature of it. So you're getting a piece of a story, but I do think that this is good setup. If you're willing to stick with something for like a slightly longer story, it's good. What comic isn't like that these days for the most part, though? Let's see. Yeah, Something is Killing the Children is back. Evan Dorkin should do Spider-Man Grand Design. Yeah, but he specifically said he does not have any interest in doing a book report comic, so I don't think that's going to happen. I love crime comics, so still reading A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. I'm also a big fan of Rick Remender. I can't claim that this is my absolute favorite thing that he's done. I'm a little confused as to like, and it's intentional, but Rick isn't going super in depth into this character's backstory. All that to say, we do finally get a little bit more information on why this main character, this Asian gentleman that looks like he's played by Benedict Wong, we finally understand his background a little bit. Because the story started with him like taking theoretically a job on the dark web, but then helping that lady. He found that because he's not like a hitman or anything, but he's an insurance claims adjuster. Those are guys who are very much detectives with a lot of money behind them. They work for big companies, you know, insurance companies, things like that, to figure out like exactly what happened, whether something should be paid out. There's a lot of money behind that. So you get some really clever people that like do detective work. So that helps explain it. And at this point, this guy tried to help a woman. She's died, but he's raising her son, and they're sort of living on a hippie commune just so that they're off the radar. But, you know, it's not going to last. This is the calm before the storm. I would say that this is, after issue 1, my favorite issue so far of this series. I'm finally starting to understand where it's going. Let's see. Zach says, first time seeing you live. I just started reading comics in December, and your channel has been a delight. Great. Thank you for watching. Hey, it's my good buddy Hooded Cobra Commander 788. He's got a wonderful channel under that name. Says, I can stay long because I've got to get some video work done, but I wanted to check in and see what's happening. I bet he meant that he can't stay long. Yeah, I know you're busy, man, but thank you. I always love seeing friendly faces here. Another crime comic, so I'll try to be brief with this one too. I don't really get the impression, at least where I am, that this is selling well, although I haven't looked up the numbers. I only say that because it's on my pull list, but I don't see any extra copies on the shelves. Kind of drives me nuts. This is issue 5. Chip Zdarsky, Jacob Phillips. Definitely reminiscent of Criminal by Brubaker and Sean Phillips. This is Jacob Phillips. But following a what do you call it? A single protagonist. A guy who used to be a cop, who now works for all of the different organized crime families, not individually, only as a group, to resolve any differences. And in this one, he intentionally gets himself arrested and put in jail to get some information out of a guy who used to be a capo for one of the crime families, for an Italian crime family. And he gets some information out of him. So what else can I say other than that without sort of spoiling things? I mean, it's a crime comic, you know? Cool thing about Newburn, you do tend to get like a complete story within each issue. Even though there's like a continuing arc to everything, each issue has like a new crime for him to resolve, and you know, he gets his hands dirty. I like it. I like it quite a bit, and I like the art. I think it's totally appropriate for what we're reading here. And you know what? Let me point out that the coloring on this is very appropriate. So let me see who does that. Okay. It only credits Jacob Phillips, so I guess he must be doing his own colors. I know he does know how to do that. He's done colors for other things before. That's cool. And there's always a backup story in this, and I kind of like this one. They give like about a 5 to 8 pages of somebody else to do a story, which is honestly pretty amazing thing to do with whatever platform you've been given. When you can do like a creator-owned comic, if you can give a little bit of a platform to somebody up and coming, I think that's just smart, because that might be their break, and they're gonna owe you one in a way. Cool seeing you cover so much Image. Yeah, I read a lot of Image, but here's a superhero one. Did we cover? Yeah, I guess Hulk was superhero. Then we had Boom and 2 Image. This is DC. I guess this is the only DC book I read this week. I love Sean Gordon Murphy's artwork, so I basically get anything he does just because I find his art style fascinating and engaging. We had before, like he had a mini series called Batman White Knight, where Joker went sane and Batman started going over the edge. It was a reversal of roles. Great miniseries. It's sort of an Elseworld story. Great book. Then he did a sequel where he sort of explored his universe a little bit more. They added stuff like Azrael and the idea of like that there were 2 different Harley Quinns. I have to admit that story in the second one I didn't care for too much. The art was great, so it was worth reading for that, but the story just, I was surprised because I loved the first story. This one's back to sort of simpler, and as you can see, it's called Beyond the White Knight. We're jumping forward a little bit in the future, and we're introducing the Batman Beyond character into Sean Gordon Murphy's version of Batman's world. So this is a Batman that's a little older, starts off in prison, but when somebody gets access to his old technology, this guy Terry, I think is his name. Yeah, it's Terry. I didn't watch much of Batman Beyond, but anyway, so Terry gets access to that, and Bruce Wayne decides to break out of prison and figure out what's going on. Apparently, a guy that used to work for his company, somebody or other Powers, has like really turned Gotham into a hellhole. Great artwork. A lot of supporting characters. We've got a grown-up Harley Quinn that has 2 kids. We've got Jason Todd, who in this world was the original Robin. We've got Dick Grayson. It's really cool. This is looking like a much more straightforward story, though. The original sequel had a lot of behind-the-scenes mythology that got a little confusing, to be honest. Do I need to have read the other White Knight comics to jump into Beyond the White Knight? No, I would not say that you do. Obviously, I think you're going to get a little bit of, I don't know, character depth if you do that. No, each story definitely functions as its own. You can read this and, you know, it tells you everything you need to know to get up and running. You might have a question or two, but those are intentional that I think will be explored within this series. So this is gorgeous. By the way, Dave Stewart on these colors, because again, I want to point out some gorgeous colors that are really adding to the depth. That said, one cool thing about these books also is Sean Gordon Murphy usually publishes several pages of the next issue in black and white. Boy, do I think that this stuff looks gorgeous in black and white. I don't think the colors muddy anything up at all. But I do think that his artwork is clean and clear enough that it does not need color. Color can add to it, but I think that these pages are gorgeous. I'm a big fan of nice, clean black and white art. But you got to understand, I really got my entry point into comic books with a lot of black and white comics. I was reading stuff like Ninja Turtles, The Tick, Usagi Yojimbo, a little bit of Cerebus, some other indies that are sort of like, kind of forgotten, but I was reading a lot of black and white comics when I first got into comics, so I've just always had an affinity for black and white stuff. And it's part of why in the last couple of years I've started to get a little bit more into manga sometimes. I do think that there's a clarity there sometimes that allows you to put a little bit of your imagination into it for things like color. I have nothing against color, especially not when it's done by, a top-notch guy like Dave Stewart. He definitely adds something. Just saying, I personally really enjoy black and white art. I really do. Sean Murphy reminds me of Mike Mignolis's Connor. I could see a little bit of that. Yeah, but I will say that, like, if you're curious about this world at all, while I don't necessarily recommend the second one unless you like the art and you're really into the world, the first one, Batman White Knight, pretty awesome. Definitely worth picking up. But I definitely recommend this too, especially if you kind of are more into Batman Beyond, which is just something that I saw a little of. I'm aware of it, but I don't know. I was probably like working already by then, so I wasn't watching too many cartoons at the point that came out. I'm aware that the opening montage was created by Darwin Cook. I know about that. That's the most I know about it. Moving forward, here's another one that's like towards the top of my list for the week. The X-Cellent. I have made an episode once before about how Peter Milligan and Mike Allred made a comic called, well, it started as X-Force, became X-Statics very early on. About some real weirdos that are like they're mutants like the X-Men, but they're celebrities as well. And it was always a satire of celebrity culture. That said, that was a while back, and now they're back with a new book. There is a new version of X-Statics, and they're important characters within this, but honestly, like, a lot of them are just sort of like very, very similar versions to the old team, most of which is dead. Yeah, they had a habit of dying off kind of quickly, too, because they would go on ridiculously dangerous missions. Here's what makes the X-Cellent different. The X-Cellent is a team led by this guy, Zeitgeist, who was the original leader of X-Force. And he's pretty much a villain. He wants revenge on Mr. Sensitive, who took over the X-Statics, or X-Force and then X-Statics. And this is giving us a lot of backstory as to how Zeitgeist survived, because he died like in the first issue, seemingly. There's a lot of interesting stuff at play here. He's a kind of sadistic character, to be honest. And so it is interesting to follow that sort of same celebrity culture satire through the eyes of somebody who is just a villain, As to where it goes, I don't know. Is he going to have a redemption arc? I don't think so, but it's possible. Is he going to die and, Mr. Sensitive and his team will take over as the new version of the X-Cellent? That could happen too. I don't know. But we're definitely seeing like two celebrity teams that are literally trying to kill each other. And it's fun. It's funny. It's violent. And it's just cool. It's just damn cool. Of course I recommend this. Of course I do. Yes. If you read X-Statics, you're probably already sold, to be honest. But if you haven't, you can jump on at this point on this book. I mean, this is only issue 2. Pretty easy to jump onto that one. Out of the things that are coming out of Marvel and DC, I like this because we've got like mutants and stuff. This is carved out in its own world. These guys aren't living on Krakoa as part of like, the mutant nation. They're just doing their own thing. And that's a lot easier to digest sometimes. It's very cool. Only 2 more issues that I picked up this week for New Comics. And I don't have a lot to say about this one other than that I enjoyed it. This is G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures. What does that mean? It is still a new story and everything, but it's done in the style of the old animated series. So we've got Eric Burnham writing this, an artist named Dan Shoening drawing it, and I loved G.I. Joe, so I had to give this a shot. This art, to me, looks like an animation cell. It's got the same type of line work, layout, and backgrounds that I'm used to seeing on the cartoon. Like, stunningly accurate. And the dialogue is flawless. This feels legit like a big mini series on G.I. Joe. That's what it feels like. It's a big adventure. It's got a ton of the characters that you remember. It's got some goofy sci-fi, because the cartoon, unlike the comic book, always had some sort of weird supernatural or sci-fi element every episode, and this has that. So, if you ever liked G.I. Joe, you're going to love this. But you probably have to have read it, known G.I. Joe, to get into this. But I had a blast with this. It's only a 4-issue series, basically just enough to get this out before IDW loses the license at the end of the year. But boy, are they doing a great comic. And it's just cool because I've always been a big fan of the regular G.I. Joe comic by Larry Hama. I really admire Larry Hama's work. So I wouldn't have thought that there was necessarily another G.I. Joe comic that I could get that into, but I'm pretty excited about this one. It's a lot of fun. And it's silly, but that's okay. Basically, Cobra Commander has the Aladdin's lamp, and he uses a genie to wish for gigantic battle android troopers. That's his wish. So silly. Steve Sorensen, thank you so much for the super chat. Is it as good as the parody G.I. Joe PSAs? Those are very entertaining in their own right, but since you mention it, I won't go through it all, but they sort of have their own single page PSA parody at the end of every issue. Like in this one, it's with Snake Eyes. Well, you couldn't have ever done that on the cartoon because Snake Eyes literally doesn't talk, and he doesn't in this, but the kid is just sort of like, wow, Snake Eyes, you're my favorite G.I. Joe. And then he's like, oh, I just did something bad, didn't I? You're right, Snake Eyes. I'll go make that right. It's like Snake Eyes hasn't said anything. He's just standing there quietly. It's pretty funny. Last book I read, latest issue of Radiant Black, and I've talked this book up lately. Haven't really known it for long, but this is issue 13, just starting into year 2 of Radiant Black. What can I say about this book that I may not have said before? It's funny. We've got the titular superhero Radiant Black here doing ads for basically parodies of things that we have now. Like, for instance, instead of Uber Eats, he works for something called Carb because they deliver food. And the dialogue there is funny, but that's how he's trying to make his money. Well, that's a funny and original idea. On top of that, if you follow Radiant Black's social media, Kyle Higgins has hired a certain actor to voice Radiant Black, and it might have some relation to the actor that voices Radiant Black may have something to do with another comic that I was talking about. You can probably put that together on your own. And what's interesting, though, is, okay, so now first we're dealing with Radiant Black trying to sort of make some money by being a superhero. All well and good, until a villain that wants to get his attention just starts simply targeting one of the businesses that he advertises for. He's like, hey, guess what? I'm just going to keep attacking anything you advertise for until you show up. Because this villain is powered by Radiant Black's proximity. He absorbs Radiant Black's black hole powers. doesn't take him away from Radiant Black, but that's how he gets powered up. So Radiant Black has sort of been ignoring him, being like, eventually he's going to run out of power. But he's kind of forced into a battle. And it's pretty cool, So Season 2 is going in some interesting directions. And you'll note that, like, a lot of these books will usually have, like, a one-page story by some other writers and artists set in that world where they just kind of do something funny. But anyway, here's why I like Radiant Black. I've always been a fan of books like Spider-Man and Invincible, where you've got, like, the young superhero, but there's a lot of sort of soap opera drama with his large supporting cast. That is Radiant Black, just to be clear. Like, this is some Radiant Black's best friend and his parents. These villains we've met a couple times. The main character has to deal with his mom. Being a superhero, he literally was sort of pulled out of time and space for 6 months. But he can't tell people why. They just think that he's being a lazy good-for-nothing. Yeah. Let's see. What about... Did they announce Image is getting the G.I. Joe license? I don't think anybody has formally announced anything. No, just that IDW is losing it, but as to who's getting it next, I don't believe that that's been confirmed. I also picked up some back issues. I'm not going to go into huge depth there, but I got the first Dark Horse Presents that had the issue of Dark Horse Presents that had the first Alien versus Predator story ever, and obviously that grew to become something pretty big and popular. So that's a cool story. I got the issue of Incredible Hulk where he became the Gray Hulk again, because his very first issue he was gray. This is his second ever appearance, issue 324. A cool issue of Fantastic Four that John Byrne drew in landscape mode as compared to portrait. Like, all of these pages flip up and down. That's kind of a cool little experiment. And then this also has John Byrne art. It's a pretty famous issue of Captain America where Captain America weighs whether he should run for president of the United States if he could do more good in that role than just beating up Red Skull. Cool stuff. Hopefully you guys got some interesting comics. I'd love to hear from everybody out there what you all got. From here, I'm going to get into drawing and talking about the news of the week, hearing what you guys have to say. Thanks for listening to my hopefully not too long-winded mini reviews. 30 minutes to review, like a dozen comics? I don't think that's too bad. This gives you some good information on what's on the stands. And I've laid out a sketch and lightboxed it of this is going to be Moon Knight in his Mr. Knight persona beating up a jackal, inspired by the latest Moon Knight show. Let me first pull up what we got for news, because I've got some news that you can use. And let me decide what pen I want to use. I'm going to start with this guy. Actually, I'm going to start with a pencil to just rough in what I want to do for the suit. Bear with me. Yeah, put some wrinkles here. And then this will be a glove. So I'll put that. Nothing fancy there. Let's see. Big collar. People talking. Let's see. Can we talk about it now? I don't know what. I have that Incredible Hulk 324. Yeah. Do you ever paint to render, or do you just do inks? I really just mess around with inks for this show. Something I don't have to think about too hard. Just gives us something visually, hopefully a little interesting to look at while I'm chit-chatting about comics, right? Let's see, his tie would be draping down like that. And then he's going to have some really nice slacks. A belt. Just going to rough that in a little bit. Moon Knight. Yes, Moon Knight. And he's got his little symbol there. And this guy's going to be a real furry beast. And that might be about everything I wanted to add at this point. Yeah, that's good. Been reading a lot of Gantz lately, up to volume 17. It's the best manga I've ever read, and it just keeps getting better and better. Although, dear God, is it sexist and homophobic. Oh, that's not great. I've never read that one. I got Mark Schultz's Xenozoic Tales. Yeah. It was quite good, and the art is well done. Yeah. Mark Schultz is definitely a good artist. Totally agree with you there. Let me see. This brush is too thick. Do I have a thinner brush? I might have this one. Just trying to pull for a nice line. Hit that like button for our boy. Hey, yeah, if you're willing to, I'd love some likes. Things like super chats are nice, but likes are free. You can donate a like very easily. I think I say too much because I'm always trying to think of what I'm going to say next on this show. I'll try to get better at that. First piece of news I'll go ahead and talk about Morbius. Not a review, just some technical knowledge about it. So, it came out. Its opening box office for the weekend was $39.1 million. That's okay. But to put it in perspective, of course, Spider-Man, made $260 million opening weekend. It's not going to compare to that. But the last Venom movie, the Venom sequel, did make $90 million over its opening weekend. So, this is a little less than half of that. I don't think that should come as a huge surprise to anybody, but that's what it is right now. I saw it. I found it kind of boring. I think that was the biggest problem. I found it kind of boring. Andrew Jefferson with a super chat. I'll always acknowledge that. Stop my train of thought in its tracks. Acknowledge your super chat. It says, which gimmick cover would you like to see make a comeback? Fun question. Give me a sec to think about that one. I also want to say thank you to Marcilio Braz for that animated wow. I love it. I love it very, very much. But that's a fun question. What cover, gimmick cover I kind of like? I do like glow-in-the-dark covers. And what I'd love to see somebody do is something that an artist friend of mine does with his prints. He makes poster prints. I'm talking about Mark Englert. Look up his work on his website, Taco Belvedere. He's super popular. He does a lot of things where he'll have a super amazing, digital painting, illustration, whatever you want to call it, based on something. Could be Spider-Man or Batman or Game of Thrones or Star Trek. He's worked for a lot of big companies, Disney. And then he'll have a glow-in-the-dark layer that is a related but different scene. So you're actually getting two very separate images. And to the way he works that in to sort of figure out like where he can sort of hide the glow-in-the-dark ink, but then like have that image come out to you. Very clever. I would love to see some people do some clever things with glow-in-the-dark covers. I think that would be a blast. A comic that can only be read in glow-in-the-dark, yeah. Oh yeah, that after credits scene in Morbius was bonkers, Jarvie. I agree. It really doesn't make much sense. But I'm not going to get too into that right now because I know some of you haven't seen it and you may plan on it. But do I recommend it? Sadly, no. I really don't. I wish I did. I want a good movie, especially if it's like a comic book related movie. But it didn't surprise me. I did not care for it. It's not the dumbest. I just found it pretty boring. That said, it did lead to something pretty funny in this opening weekend. Tyrese is one of the actors in it. He plays an FBI agent, Simon Stroud, who was a real comic book character, by the way, in Marvel Comics. And anyway, Tyrese fell for like what I thought would be pretty obviously fake. Somebody posted like a quote from Martin Scorsese, as though Scorsese said, "I saw Morbius and it is the height of cinema." And Tyrese goes like, "Whoa, check it out." It's like, dude, no offense, Scorsese's not going to say that about any superhero movie, and certainly not Morbius. Like, just be a little skeptical there. Just a little bit. Whoa! I was pretty amused at that, though. Morbius may be arguably getting a little bit more hate than it deserves, Fallout 2 Forever, but that doesn't make it good. Yeah. Is it at least fun? No. For me, I did not find it fun. I like I said, I had trouble staying awake the whole time. I sincerely did. There are little parts that can be entertaining. I sincerely thought Matt Smith was very good. He came out of that unscathed, looking like $1 million. But everything else I didn't care for. We've got other news, but I'll let that one digest for just a moment. See if anybody has any big opinions on it, on Morbius. How many of you out there have just seen it? Just like, yes, I've seen it, or no, I haven't. Like, let me just get a sense of how many people may have gone to actually see it, or even if you just plan to, like, no matter what you plan to. I'd be curious about any of that. Morbius is the most dunked on film on the internet. It sure is right now. Hey, I mean, yes, for my opinion, and somebody's saying no. All right. Yeah. If I remember correctly, Gail Simone said that Morbius should have fought Blade. He has in the comics, just to be clear. He definitely has in the comics. And in my last video, if you haven't seen it yet, I talk about like what from the comics made it into the Morbius movie. And Morbius has technically been in live action once before, but it was in a cut scene. If you watch the original Blade movie, they've got like the original ending to that, and it ends with Blade on a city rooftop during the day, and he sees Morbius from like a long distance watching him. So obviously that could have been a cool idea, like, a vampire without that weakness to sunlight, but they obviously just didn't go that way. You're curious about it. Haven't seen it. Don't plan to. It's not even worth pirating. Haven't seen it. Can you create polls? Yes, actually. Why am I not doing it this way? I forgot that I have this ability. Hold on. Let's see what happens. Oh, John Darcy with a super chat, so let me acknowledge that. Good sir, just my weekly Batman creator hype up. Jock, One Dark Night. I mean, come on. Also, Andrea Sorrentino on Imposter is so dang beautiful. Well, there you go. John recommends One Dark Night and Imposter. So, appreciate that. Yeah, it looks like this poll is... by far, everybody says no. And I think that's saying something, because obviously we're all comic book readers, and most of us haven't seen it. Okay, it's at 85%, so obviously a couple people did, but yeah. No, I haven't read Gail Simone's run on Domino, but sounds fun. Where did I just put the pen? Okay. I know that nose looks pretty prominent, but I drew the whole character behind it, and it drives me nuts sometimes when people draw like masked characters, for instance Spider-Man, without really showing their body parts that are underneath. It's What about intention to see it? I mean, if you have an intention, mention it, but yeah. I expected Morbius to be bad, but hoped it would be entertaining at least. It was just really bland. Yeah, that was my opinion as well. Blade movies are great. The first two are. The third one's whatever. Marvel's revealed something for Free Comic Book Day, which is coming right up. Like what? We're in April now, aren't we, folks? That means we're like 1 month away from Free Comic Book Day. Hopefully, most of the areas of the country we're enough past the everything, people being sick, that we can actually sort of have some fun Free Comic Book Day events at comic book stores. But yeah, they're gonna have on Free Comic Book Day. Marvel is Avengers X-Men #1, and it's going to introduce a character called Bloodline. She is the daughter of Blade. We've been talking about Blade. Yeah, they're going to introduce a new character. He's got a daughter, and it's interesting. You know, there was a time where that almost happened once before. Tim Seeley, who writes like Hack and Slash among other things, he was going to do a Blade story that introduced a daughter. He's talked about it before. And it's an interesting story because he, like, at the same time, Marvel was doing like a lot of hip-hop variant covers and stuff for a lot of their books. And Tim basically came to feel that, like, you know what? Maybe me being just, you know, a white guy shouldn't be the person to introduce, you know, the new black female superhero character. I can respect that 100%. And so it's going to be created by creators of color. Writer is Danny Lore. They are a black writer. And then the artist is Karen S. Darbo, who is Afro-Italian. She lives in Italy. Cool. They might have a different perspective on the character. Props to Tim for making that decision. I mean, there's nothing that says he couldn't, but yeah, interesting idea. A-Man with the super chat. Thank you, first of all. Like, it means a lot when I get a super chat, guys. Like, it helps. I've got bills. It helps. In fact, I'll speak to that in just a sec. But let me acknowledge A-Man's question. I want more movies of just the villains. Morbius doesn't look like a good example. Do you? A movie about a villain obviously can be done well. A little tricky when that villain is so closely tied to a prominent hero, so you're kind of just curious, well, when's that person going to show up? In my opinion. For instance, you know, the Joker movie, right? It's a fine movie for what it is. I've seen it before with Martin Scorsese movies, but it's fine. It's executed fine for what it is. And at the same time, you can't help but watch that going like, where's Bruce Wayne? You know, you can't help but wonder that. That's a little bit of a distraction from the story that it's trying to tell. In my opinion. Anyway. Bloodline reminds me of that awesome DC line. I made a book about one of those characters once. But I think that, yeah, fine. A female vampire slayer. Obviously it's worked before, so no reason we can't get something kind of cool with that. Let's see. Good luck. Good luck. Did you see the Catgirl VTuber interview with Jared Leto? The press junkets for Morbius didn't even try. Sony knew it was going to flop. I didn't see any of that, so I don't know what that refers to. Have you read the new Ghost Rider comics that are being released this year? I've been loving the first 2 issues. I can tell, Jarvie, that those are doing well because, at least at my store, bunch of copies I can see were in stock and that like got sold. And I picked it up and flipped through both issue 1 and 2. I didn't buy that one, but it didn't look bad at all. It definitely didn't look bad at all. Steve Sorensen with the Doctor Doom or Lex Luthor good villain movie material. Possibly. I would say, yeah, like some characters do have a much more conflicted personality and an interesting backstory. Magneto, he could be good. Dr. Doom and Lex Luthor are both fairly complex. At the same time, if I was watching that, I'd be like, oh, where is, Reed Richards? Where is Clark Kent? I'd be wondering those things. Lobo? Yeah, Lobo could definitely be his own thing. You're totally right. Lobo could easily support an interesting, funny, crazy movie. If a studio still after IP credit can attach the right team to a villain who has surpassed the hero they were once attached to, we might be in business. I think I get what you're saying there. Kang could be good. Kang could, well, yeah, I mean, because just a time travel story, you're right. But even some great villains wouldn't necessarily make a good movie. For instance, I would argue, off the top of my head, I don't necessarily think a Dormammu movie or an Ultron movie with them as the protagonist is necessarily interesting. I think you need the heroes involved to tell their story. But what do I know? I'm just some YouTuber. At the end of the day. Oh, yeah, so I was going to say, like, I have bills to pay, and I had to make a tough decision this past week, but I have owned a 1957 Ford Thunderbird. It's in great shape. It's something I really have enjoyed having for a while. But when I bought it, my goal was always to... First of all, it runs great mechanically, no structural issues, no paint issues, no tears inside. It's in great shape. But it's a 1957. It's old. So it does need a little maintenance work, which would cost several $1,000s on the engine, just to like get it in perfect shape for a little while longer. So when I bought it, that was my plan. And then I got COVID. And then my AC unit for my house literally exploded. I still haven't replaced that yet. Went through all of that. That pushes the air through my house. So we had a freezing cold winter. Chrissy and I just went around with blankets and sweatshirts on throughout the whole time we were here. Like we had like about 4 blankets on our bed. It's just what we needed to do. So I finally was like, you know what? I can't justify this. I got to sell this thing. But in sort of positive news, when my father, I told him, hey, Dad, I'm going to be selling this car. He's like, really? What would you sell it to me for? I was like, oh, you? I'd sell it for like, a notch over what I bought it for. I don't need to make money on family. But I could use that money for like, home repairs and paying off medical bills and stuff. And so I sold it to my father. It's currently being transported across the country. He lives in New Hampshire. So it's still in the family. It's just not mine anymore. I don't get to drive it every day that I feel like it. But, that's still kind of nice that at least it's going somewhere that I care about. And now I've got some money so that I can like hopefully pay for these home repairs that I really need. So that just came up because, some of you were nice enough to give a super chat. I was just saying, like, yeah, I'm not begging for it, but I'm in a position where I will benefit from your help. So I appreciate it. It makes me emotional. It makes me very appreciative to know such kind people. Thank you. Thank you very much. any movie can be great with the right people up front. I mean, yeah, that's probably true, Marvin. Nobody sets out to make a bad movie. There's just no benefit there. Everybody that makes any movie, even if it's, some sort of sci-fi channel cheapie or something, like, people think, hey, I've got a good idea and we're gonna, like, nail the execution. Like, everybody sets out to make a good product. And it can fall apart for a variety of reasons. But, it just is to say, it's based on how good is the idea, how talented is the crew, what investment does the cast have. But generally, I would say that that's true, that, any movie has potential. It has potential. I'm happy you were able to get some help but not completely lose your car. Sort of, yeah. I mean, I don't get to drive it anymore. I didn't ever get to, like, sort of fix it up to, like, I wanted to get it, like, in such pristine shape that, I could take it to a car show. Because it would show off great right now to, like, guy off the street. But if you took a car like that to a car show, they're going to be picking through it, like, hey, you haven't fixed this to perfect operating order or something. I get it. Sharknado had dozens of releases and even a theatrical release. Yeah, the people making Sharknado were not out to make a bad movie. That said, like, they were very aware that they were making a tongue-in-cheek, silly movie. And that's a little different than, like, when people, like, the most entertaining bad movies are things like The Room, where you can kind of tell that the creator thought that they were making a good movie. And that's kind of what's entertaining about it, is the sincerity behind it. In my opinion. Let's see. I mean, you'll inherit it back, won't you? I don't know. My dad can do with it whatever he wants. Oh, I'm drawing Moon Knight. Here's a cool little piece of news that's, like, also sort of trivia. So, if you've watched Moon Knight, there is a scene, this isn't a spoiler, it's just, like, setting where it takes place, where the main character is talking to a child in a museum. It's a nice, straight shot, and some people picked up on this. In the background, on, like, the walls and stuff, there's posters and stuff, and there were some QR codes. You can actually scan those QR codes on the TV screen, and it will give you access to a free digital copy of Moon Knight's first comic book appearance, which was, I've written it down, Werewolf by Night number 32. Oh, hold on. I got a super chat. Your videos have been helping me get through a lot of panic attacks for years now, so I'm happy to give what I can back. Robert, thank you so much. That's really, really kind of you. If any of my work can help you relax and get past that, that really makes me feel good. So good luck with that. Take that seriously. I have a few friends that have that deal with that kind of regularly, so I understand how serious that is. It's not just something you can simply turn off. It's just how your body is made. So more power to you in learning some good coping mechanisms. But if my show can help you relax, that's really awesome to hear. That's the best. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, Werewolf by Night 32. Rick Ray jumps in. I hope they make a Mr. Knight figure. You know what, Black Phoenix? I don't get those, what do you call them, Marvel Legends action figures. But if they made a Mr. Knight one, I'd be pretty darn tempted to get something like that. Yeah, that would be very cool. That would be awesome. I like that idea. It's just a great design. Was it Greg's? No, it was Declan Shalvey who created that look, wasn't it? Yeah, Declan Shalvey. Great artist. Very cool. Very cool. You'll have to pause the episode. How is that possible? It's in shot enough to scan. You know, it's a pretty steady shot. You'd probably benefit from pausing it, but you might be able to scan it, like, in the moment, to be honest. Yeah. Anyway, just kind of cool. A way to get, like, a free comic. Literally, you could, at this point, I bet you anything that somebody has put it on YouTube, so you could get it there. I bet you. I hope that they continue to do things like that with some of these Marvel shows and movies. That would just be a super cool way to introduce people to some of the characters' histories. I own 2 copies of the first Moon Knight solo series. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I enjoyed the first episode. It's a slow burn, and I'm totally fine with that. It let us get to know the characters, and I can tell that the actors got to have a bit of a say in how they wanted to craft their characters and their performance. And when you can give an actor that kind of buy-in to the creative process, in my opinion, that's going to lead to better results. We shall see. More superheroes need to get therapy. That's probably true. That's probably true. I think that we're starting to see little bits of that get introduced, like more real-world things that we're aware of. Here's an interesting bit of news. San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody knows San Diego Comic-Con. It's been around for a long time. It's, I would argue the best-known comic convention. And yet, think about it. There are shows put on by people like, for instance, you remember Wizard World would have one in like every city. Reed Pop does the New York Comic-Con, C2E2 in Chicago, Emerald City Comic-Con here in Seattle. But Comic-Con International, who puts on the San Diego show, they also, I think, do WonderCon, but, they don't do shows throughout the country. It's, all there in sort of southern L.A. Andrew Jefferson, thanks for the super chat. Michael Lark did Mr. Knight first in Secret Avengers. Really? I like Michael Lark's work. I did not know that. I'll have to look into that. Thank you. Thanks for the super chat and the knowledge. But anyway, yeah, so Comic-Con International, which is, they themselves are like a non-profit. They have hired IMG, who is a marketing agency, a licensing company, to look into ways that they could expand their brand, because they have a very well-known brand. And so, yeah, basically Comic-Con International may be looking into expanding to do similar shows in other parts of the country or the world. And I think that could be pretty exciting. We shall see. But makes sense to me. Thoughts? Would you want to see them expand and, potentially do something closer to where you live? Or do you think that they should just focus on just doing the show they do now, and that's plenty? Have you watched Young Justice? The second half of the new season is airing now. Sorry, Fernando, no. Where can you watch that? Who owns the Wizard conventions now? Well, I think it's still Wizard. I think that's all they do is conventions. Let me look it up. It's an interesting question, Clay. I'm going to Google it real quick. Yeah, Wizard Entertainment Incorporated is still an entity, and they do the fan conventions. Yeah, so it's called Wizard Entertainment Incorporated. Let's see, who's that did this? Steve Sorensen, thank you for the super chat. And he says, Wizard World is now Fan Expo. I went to Wizard World Philly 10 years ago and Fan Expo Philly this weekend. Are there any cons people are planning to go to soon? I don't have anything imminent, but I definitely am in the mood to get back to a good convention. You know, maybe I'll go to New York again this year. I've always enjoyed that one. I've only skipped a single year last year just because of, like, the state of the world, basically. But I'd love to go back. So that's one I'm giving some serious consideration to. I'm also giving some consideration to going to SPX in Baltimore. I think that's September. Anybody else going to any conventions for sure? HBO? Okay. HBO has Young Justice. It's not very good, but it has its high points. Okay. Well, maybe. There was a local con this weekend, but I wasn't able to make it. Otherwise, I got to drive to Asheville, North Carolina, or Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah. I want to go see Jim Steranko at the Butler Art Museum in Ohio this Saturday, but it's a 2-hour drive at night. 2 hours is a lot, but if that's a creator that's important to you, I get that. It could be cool. Hold on. Steve with another super chat. Definitely going to New York Comic Con and possibly bringing a posse. Jim Mahfood says, I'll be at Heroes Con in June. Yeah, Heroes Con. That's on the, that's in, where? Like Georgia or South Carolina or something like that? Or is it like Northern Florida? Let me look it up. I can't remember off the top of my head. Heroes Con. I feel like I've got the general area. Oh, Charlotte, North Carolina. I was right at the first time. Charlotte, North Carolina. Very cool. All right. Jim, do you have any more of those pop-up books that I've shown once or twice on the live stream? Jim has this incredible pop-up art book. Look at this stuff. Girl Scouts. That's his current book. Look at that. That's incredible, isn't it? Tell me you wouldn't buy this. But do you have any, Jim? North Carolina. Let us know if you still have any of these, because I recommend this thing. It is the coolest. Look at that. Every piece of art is gorgeous. It's not cheap, but why would it be? Like, you know, this is obviously a super unique book. If you like Jim's art, you're going to want that. And, of course, he's got his Girl Scouts book that's coming out these days. Going to a con right now seems mad sketchy. Con crud was already a thing. Agree, Kale? It's a concern. I don't know. You know, it's a concern. It's why I'm not 100% on things. But I'm vaxxed. I'm boosted. Everything that the CDC says I should be okay. Does it come with Girl Scout cookies? Good question, Marvin. My guess is no. Let's start detailing a little bit more of this jackal creature that I have here. Been having too much fun with Moon Knight himself. I wish. You showed a nipple, gonna get demonetized. Pretty sure you actually are allowed to show that with artwork. I don't think that demonetizes you. If it does, that's crazy. But yeah, YouTube's always changing its algorithm, so I guess who knows. I met Justin Stewart at Lexington Comic-Con last weekend. Got a signed Howard the Human. That's awesome. I have vacation in October. Any idea when New York Comic-Con tickets go on sale? It's going to be darn soon. It's going to be darn soon. I would go to their website, and they probably have like something where you can register to be notified. I think I already missed signing up for like a pro badge, so that sucks. Pretty sure they've already had that come and go. So the songs I sang last night, a bunch of them were chosen for me. Let's see, because like I say, I did karaoke with all my coworkers last night. I did Total Eclipse of the Heart. I think I did okay on that. I did Surrender by Cheap Trick. Somebody put on, what did they put on? The original Britney Spears song, hit, Hit Me Baby One More Time. Yeah, so I did that. Couple that I just didn't know, and I was like, I'll try, but now I'm not remembering them. Oh, and the most fun, I did it. It's Tricky. First of all, I did It's Tricky by Run DMC. I think I nailed that one. And I did a duet with my coworker Tyra for the JJ Fad song, Supersonic. I bet not many of you know what Supersonic was, but let's see. Why won't it let me put up a new poll? Okay. Bucket list Comic-Cons. I want to go to Comiket in Japan, says Steve. Great question. Give me a sec. I want to talk about that. That's a great question. Here we go. That's an important question I will ask. So I just put up a new poll. Yes, I would also like to go to Comiket in Japan. I would like to attend Angoulême in France. I would like to go to CCXP in Brazil. What else have I not been to that I would like to go? Those are probably the three that I'd like to attend right now. Baby D killed it on that song. Because the S is for super and the U is for unique. The P is for perfection and you know that we are freaks. The E is for exotic and the R is for raps. Old school hip hop. So fun. No. 67% say no. They don't know what song I'm talking about. Well, you just got to hear the best part. You're welcome. Baby D. Oh, the E is for exotic and the R is for raps. So tell those nosy people just to stay the hell back. Supersonic. I've literally never seen the outside of a comic shop in real life. Well, I like them. You should go visit one. That's my recommendation of the day.
Musical guest, JJ Fad.
JJ Fad was never the musical guest on Saturday Night Live, just to be clear. Let's see. Astro City is awesome. Now seeing some Skrillex. I don't know any Skrillex. Are you hyped for Sonic 2? Ever play the games? I played some of the games. I don't know that I was ever able to beat any of them. That said, Chrissy and I actually did watch the first Sonic because it was on Paramount Plus. So we actually watched that this past week. It was better than I expected it to be. It wasn't too bad. Jim Carrey was kind of funny in it. And I also do like, hold on, all of a sudden I'm forgetting. Ben Schwartz, he does the voice for Sonic. Ben Schwartz is a really funny improviser and actor, so there were a couple things in it that I liked. It was better than I expected it to be. Got another nice super chat here from Target Dummy, $7.77. I like that. Really appreciate your videos. You've helped me get into comics. Currently reading through the Batman Nightfall story arc. Nightfall is a blast. Because it was so popular, they have some protracted sequels to turn it into a trilogy. They've got Knight's Quest and Knight's End that I would argue have diminishing results. But Nightfall was pretty cool. I like Nightfall. I go by my comic book store every few weeks or so. I go every week. I've got a really fun routine. My comic shop does a live claim sale on Tuesday evenings. I'll explain what that is in a minute, but it's really fun. And then I'll go in on and then on Tuesday I'll also stay up and watch whatever, like, Disney or Marvel show comes out, like, at midnight. I just stay up that late. Then I sleep in a little. I go to my comic shop right when it opens at 11, pick up whatever I got from the claim sale, whatever I have on my pull list, whatever excites me on the stands, and then I go to work. I work from noon to 9. So it's a nice, like, Tuesday, Wednesday thing. The claim sale is by, I go to a shop called Atomic Comics. They're based in Tacoma, Washington. And so basically every week there's a mix of variants, back issues, all sorts of price levels. The shop owner, Shane, will explain what's sort of important or interesting about the comic that he puts up. And after he's talked about it for a little while, he'll reveal the price for it. And whoever types claim that title and the price first gets to buy it. And he sells it at, good prices. So it's a really fun thing that I watch, like, every Tuesday night. Did I say live clam sale? Not live clam sale, live claim sale. I'm all digital. Almost everything I've read from the last few years was from Comixology. Fallout, how is the app treating you since the latest updates? That would be interesting to all of us. How's Comixology doing for you right now, since that's mainly how you read comics? James Hudgens with a generous super chat. Oh, hi! Love catching your stuff live. Thank you for being here, James. Right now, I'm making a late-night dinner of broccoli cheddar soup. Lovely. Hey, I just realized that my sister isn't here. My sister's always here. I hope she's okay. She must be busy. Unless you are here, Gene, and you're just being really, really quiet and I missed you. I guess that's possible, but yeah, I don't think she's here tonight. Darn it. Gonna have to give her a call soon. Aside from comics, what do you guys do to relax? Is it just video games, or is it like, collecting something? Is it hiking or martial arts? Like, what kind of activities fill your time aside from comics? Like, what's the main stuff that you do aside from comics? Was she taken? Oh, you are here! Hey, Jeannie, I'm glad you're here. It's just nice to know that you're here, so that, like, next time we talk, we'll have something to talk about. I'm glad you're here. I've got a really cool sister. I don't know about you guys, whether you have cool siblings, but I definitely do. The true sister was the friends you made along the way. No, my true sister is my sister. Your sister is usually trolling you. Maybe a little, she does. Maybe a little. Isn't she literally in your house at the moment? No. No, she's on the other side of the country. My sister's in Massachusetts. I'm in Washington. So it's nice, like, when she's, here. I don't live with my family. I live with my wife. Biking, lifting weights, walking, movies, anime, hanging out at comic shops, movies, novels, TV, podcasts, music, cooking. Cooking, very cool. I have 2 teenage kids. That takes most of my time. That can be fun sometimes, I bet. Jogging, working out, new album, and building Lego. I love building a huge Lego set and listening to, say, like a true crime podcast. To me, that's relaxing. I don't get to do it very much, but that's what I like to do. I have a full-time job, so I don't have time to do much but watch YouTube and sleep. Yeah. I feel kind of jealous of my siblings. Could understand that. It's probably normal that stuff like that happens. What kind of art are you doing lately? Chrissy, that's a question for you. Michael is asking, what kind of art are you doing lately? That's very nice of you to ask. Chrissy's always got a couple projects bubbling along, but she also works very hard for her job. But fortunately, some of those get to be very creative projects too. My current favorite way to relax, listening to the graphic audio of my favorite fantasy novel, Trilogy Night Angel. Never heard of it. I thought you were talking your wife. No, Chrissy is my wife. My sister is Jean. Black Phoenix says, I read, draw, write, listen to music, and collect toys when I get free time. Well, I hope you get plenty of free time. Has anyone listened to the Sandman audiobooks? I haven't, but I heard that they were very well done. Yeah, interesting question. Has anybody listened to those? Is it accurate? Does it add anything to the mythology? Mostly art supply shopping, shopaholic problems. This is Chrissy. But ideally, oil painting and sculpting. Yep. What are we drawing here? Kick-Ass? No, this is Moon Knight as Mr. Knight. He's in his suit, and he's pummeling a jackal. As Moon Knight is wont to do. In fact, I'm going to switch brushes real quick. Your sister is in Massachusetts. Larry Hama is at Wicked Comic-Con on April 9th. I would love to be there. I don't think my sister cares too much about going to a Comic-Con. She reads some comics, but Gene, do you need to see the writer of all the G.I. Joe comics? I think he's an awesome dude. Are you going to go? I enjoy watching Kamen Rider twice a week. Ooh. Mahir says draw comic art, make music. Okay. Collect funk is and make stop motion. Okay. Very cool. Look at that. I've been trying to get the motivation to make a new video. Well, good luck with that, man. I know it's never easy. Wow, Sean Williams, that's so kind of you. Just not even a question, just a very friendly super chat. Well, it's very much appreciated. Thank you. I don't think so, but thanks. Yeah, Gene's not going to go to the Comic-Con. Oh, well. We tried, folks. We tried. We tried and failed. The moral is never try. Gene, you ever see a jackal in real life? Are jackals like... They must be some form of canines, right? From like the wolf family? They must be. I scroll Twitter, customize action figures, and organize junk. The Sandman audiobook is amazing, really well done. Okay. You know what? You guys probably thought that I was done with news, but I've always promised to deliver at least 6 pieces of news every show, and I've only given you 4. That means you've got 2 more good pieces of news to come. Let me start with this one first, because the second one is happier. This one's a little sad. I thought it was worth acknowledging that a really influential artist in comics passed away. And he was only 67, which I don't consider very old. Gary Leach. If you don't know that name, you probably still have seen his work, I just want to say. Gary Leach was the artist on the 1981 Marvel Man series, also known as Miracle Man. So you've absolutely seen at least his first cover. It's pretty iconic and well known. He could do superheroes, but in my opinion, he could add a lot of heart to the characters. He was really good at displaying subtle yet convincing emotions. And unfortunately passed away. The exact details of exactly why are not known at this time. But ultimately, that doesn't really matter. That part isn't really any of our business. I would just say, if he did more than, let me make it clear, he did more than just Miracle Man. If you've ever read Hitman, he did the inks on pretty much every issue over John McCrae's pencils. He did a lot of inking work. He worked for 2000 AD a lot. Those are the guys that do Judge Dredd, but they do, of course, a lot of other comics. And yeah, Gary Leach was a really talented artist. And it's just sad to lose somebody, that young, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it could be younger, but that to me, that's young. And obviously, Miracle Man's right about to get known by more people with Marvel doing something or other with it. The exact details, I don't think any of us have quite figured out, but, that character is going to be used soon. Yeah, gone too soon. Exactly. I've got another piece of news that's a little more fun, if maybe a little generic, but I enjoyed Demon Days by Peach Momoko and Zach Davison. That was basically Peach's take on the world of the X-Men, but seen through the lens of Japanese folklore. So there was lots of yokai and oni and mystical creatures like that. And she wrapped up her X-Men story, but is now creating Demon Wars. X-Men was Demon Days. This is called Demon Wars, and it's going to be her take on a much broader spectrum of Marvel characters, specifically sort of telling the Civil War story, Marvel Civil War, but through, Japanese folklore and myth and stuff like that. So I think that could be a lot of fun. And that comes out when? I think it's real soon, like July or something. I guess I don't have the exact date, but I think it's July. I think that could be really cool. I don't want Miracle Man teaming up with the X-Men. He should be in his own world. To me, Miracle Man doesn't seem like he would really fit into the Marvel Universe, and why do you need to? You've already got characters like Hyperion, or who else? I'm blanking here. Sentry. So why do you need, Miracle Man? You can kind of tell stories with characters that they've already created to be these ultra powerful yet weird guys. So we'll see. But so hopefully they've got a good idea, and it's just like sort of a one-time story for something. It doesn't seem like the kind of character that should be integrated into the Marvel Universe. Oh, look at this. Andrew Jefferson. I'm feeling you, and I've got some plans, Andrew. Still hoping on a Ramona Fradon video. She probably won't be around much longer and should get more attention. One of the last golden silver age artists. Agreed. Big fan of her. Still working. She's in her 90s. Something like 96 or 97, and she still takes commissions. Still draws some beautiful, beautiful art. I don't want to feel like rushed, like, hey, she's going to die, so just get it done. But I have long been thinking of doing something on her, and I'm currently in the process of trying to get like a really nice art book that Dynamite made about Ramona and her work. I think that would really help me with the fine details of what I'm trying to do. So, just waiting on that, but I definitely have plans to cover her at some point. I think she's a very charming and talented artist. If you don't know her, just like in brief, Ramona Fradon is arguably best known for drawing Aquaman for a long time. She also co-created the character Metamorpho, and did a bunch of other things, but she's great. She's really wonderful. Well, I'm going to head to bed. It was fun, and I'm glad I was able to catch a stream. Love your videos. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, that Howard Chaykin interview book? No, I don't think it's that one. Donnie Cates said he has dibs on Miracle Man in his interview with Sal from Comic Pop. Sal from Comic Pop? Who watches that guy? That guy. What a... Sal. What does he know about comics? Comic tropes. That's the sauce. That is the show. Sal. I'm joking. Sal seems like a really great guy every time I've talked with him. He's wonderful. And he definitely knows his, especially Marvel, like, history. I would argue I do too, but yeah, he knows that stuff. Have you been reading any Substack comics, Chris? Great question. So far, no, I haven't. There are a couple creators I would be interested in signing up to follow. I'll let you guys know once I do, because it's something I need to do. Somehow it seems a little more intimidating to commit that like monthly thing, and yet that's what I'm always hoping my viewers will do, is sort of, support me on a monthly basis on Patreon. Like a buck makes a huge difference to me. James with the super chat. Sal from Comic Pop. Pfft, Sal. Pfft, 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 pfft. Whatever. No, Sal's great. I have nothing bad to say about him. Speaking of collaborations, at least other YouTubers, I did do a collaboration this past week with Godzilla Mendoza, and that's on his channel. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend going to the Godzilla Mendoza channel, and his latest video is one that I'm also in, pretty much close to like a 50-50 between us, and we go through the Batman movie, the comics that were used for that movie, The Batman. So I think that's a pretty good one. His editor did an incredible job on it. It's really well edited. So more than what I can kind of do by myself. So yeah, I recommend it. I think it's pretty fun. Gives you some details, or deets as the kids say. They like to say it quietly. Is Cates moving over to do work for DC? I don't think he is anytime soon. I mean, his books like Thor and Hulk are doing fantastic. So, I'm pretty sure he's still going to be with Marvel for a while. I mean, I won't be surprised if someday he goes over there, but as far as I know, not right now. And if you haven't watched it, I mean, please feel free to watch my episodes as well. Definitely check out Godzilla Mendoza's video, because I am proud of that one. Even though it's not on my channel, I'm proud of what we did on that. But if you haven't seen it yet, I also recommend my Morbius video from this past week. Yeah, I think I clearly need to do a deep dive analysis on a creator. I know that people want that. I've just sort of haven't had as much time, so I've had to do sort of some slightly simpler types of episodes for myself, just so that I can get some content out. It's better than no content. But I've got some pretty big ideas for some creators that I'll be doing real soon, just so you know. And just bear with me. Supersonic. I can't get into Sonic of Ice and Fire. What's that, like a parody of Game of Thrones or something? Sonic of Ice and Fire. Is that a Sonic comic or something? Man, I love those George R. R. Martin books, Song of Ice and Fire. It drives me bonkers that he hasn't put out another book yet. And I don't have a whole lot of faith that he will. He seems to have a lot more interest doing other things. But I would still show up if he releases another. I hope he does, because I think his books will definitely give me a more satisfying version of the Game of Thrones story than the TV show. I liked the TV show, but yeah, the last couple seasons were not as strong once it sort of went off on its own, and I want to see what the original creator might have done. Hopefully it's a little better. Will I get that in my lifetime? Or his lifetime? I don't know. Don't have a lot of faith, but you never know. You think it was a typo? Oh. Maniac of New York from Aftershock is really good. Slasher villain shows up in New York City and won't leave and can't be killed. It will be posthumous. Not as good. Don't want that. We'll see. I should be able to get whatever I want. I'm Chris. I'm Chris from Comic Tropes. I interviewed George R. R. Martin once. It was interesting. For an old podcast that I used to have. The Game of Thrones show had pretty much just recently started. We got to discuss it quite a bit. At that time, he was like, yeah, I'll finish the books before the show ends. That didn't happen. Oh, well. Terry Pratchett had his computer steamrolled so they wouldn't release any posthumously. I can kind of respect that. Chris, I know you're a Madman fan from the books in your background. Any plans to dive into that character or creator? Absolutely, Daniel. In fact, now that you say that, maybe that's one that I should sort of bump up because, yeah, I like I like both, but I think I'd be a little more interested right now in discussing Mike Allred as a creator and what he brings to the table. And yeah, I think that would interest me and kind of excite me. I've sort of put it off for a long time because sometimes at this point, like, a lot of the creators that I'm really passionate about are sometimes the ones that I still haven't covered on my show because I get a little bit intimidated. I'm like, can I do them justice? You know, I want to talk about what they do well, but I also am going to be a little critical. I'm going to, like, give my honest opinions, and I get, like, a little nervous about, like, how somebody might take that. I do. I don't want to offend somebody whose work I respect, but I want to talk about it in an honest way. James, thank you for the super chat. Do you know who I am, Martin? I'm Chris from Comic Tropes. Yeah. Do you know who I am, George R. R. Martin? I have a YouTube channel. I have almost 200,000 followers. I mean, what did you have? An HBO show? I think we know who's on top here. Now, get to work. Don't think that's quite how that would go. It's unlikely. Hey, Gene, did you ever finish reading the books? You were reading them all for a while, and I don't know if you ever finished them. You better have. Have you considered being a comic editor or doing your own imprint? Not really, no. If an opportunity came into my lap to do some sort of editing, for an interesting project and the pay was right, yeah, I would consider that. I don't expect that to happen. I don't think I'd want to do an imprint or anything. I don't think that, there's enough of an audience to justify anything like that. I do have stories that I personally want to tell and that I plan on telling at some point, hopefully soon. But we'll see. We'll see. Oh, we will. The series I really want to recommend is Animosity. That's where animals gain sentience and learn to talk, and as a result, society collapses. Well, yeah, if everybody was sentient, that sounds like a nightmare, to be honest. What do you eat? We're not going to eat sentient things. I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, how do we decide what animals we eat versus which ones we don't? I think to a degree, at least here in America, that we must make those decisions based on utility. As in, if the animal has a utility aside from food, then we're likely to just not try to eat it. For instance, people can't eat horse in some countries, but as that's a beast of burden, I think that we generally don't eat our beasts of burden. Whereas a cow can't really be used as a beast of burden the same way an ox or a donkey or a horse can. So maybe that's part of why we eat them, but I don't know. It seems so arbitrary sometimes, what we eat versus what we don't for animals. It's hard to understand. It's based on how delicious they are. I mean, that's obviously a part. Like, we're not going to go after, like, we could harvest squirrels, but they're not delicious, so yeah. So that is a part of it, I admit, but I don't think that's the whole rationale. I think it's probably complex and has taken a long time for people to make these decisions and for them to become culturally ingrained, right? I don't know. I don't have the answers. All I am doing is talking about the comics of the week, drawing, taking your questions, seeing where it all goes. I did not finish the series. Don't think less of me. I don't, but you should. It's damn good. The 5th book is a lot better than the 4th, for what it's worth. I think the 3rd one was my favorite overall. And the 4th was, like, arguably my least favorite, although it's still interesting. But the 5th is better again, so it's worth staying with it. It definitely does some stuff different than the show and goes into some characters in much more detail. So if you like that world at all, it is kind of worth following up on. Jerf E with the super chat saying, how familiar with Invaders All Winners Squad are you? I'm familiar with it, but I wouldn't call myself any kind of an expert. I've read some of those Roy Thomas issues. That's about it. James Hutchins with a super chat. Last super chat. I wish I could give more, but I'm going to use my last one to pedantically correct. Sentience means able to feel emotion. Sapience relates to intelligence. Everyone uses it wrong. Okay. So we'd be talking with animals more about what level of sapience they have. We don't eat, say, like a monkey or a dolphin generally because they have a high level of sapience. Got it. I didn't know that. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, but thank you for the lesson. I'm pretty sure I started the 5th book but never finished it. I bet you could still pick it up and get something out of it. Are you reading anything right now, Jeannie? Just curious if you're reading anything these days. You'd better be. My sister better be reading, because if she's not reading comics, she better be reading books. Weirdest thing you've eaten? Weirdest thing I've eaten? I mean, it's all going to be cultural, isn't it? Because what's weird to me is not considered weird elsewhere. So when I say this is a weird thing that I ate, I am not saying that as though I'm judging someone else for eating it. I'm saying weird within what I am familiar with. I would say probably pigeon. In Hong Kong, my friend Martin, who's from there, took Chrissy and I to a dim sum restaurant that he likes. And he was like, here, have some pigeon. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's a common thing. It's really good. Like, having trouble believing this, but I'll try anything once. Basically, I try new things these days. I think I've gotten better as I've gotten older about that. I didn't love it, and the way they cook it, like they cook the whole thing. I mean, they defeather it, but then they cook the whole thing, and you've got the head there and stuff, and that's what then they just chop it into 7 parts, and I was given the head, and I've got like the beak and stuff, and I'm just like biting the back of its neck. I didn't care for that too much. How about anybody else out there? Anything weird you've eaten? I've also had crickets. No, not crickets. Excuse me. Cicadas. I was in D.C., and they come out every 16 years, just thousands of them everywhere. And my friend Melinda did a stir fry. She had like a little party and she did a stir fry, and so I tried them. It was okay. It was covered in a lot of sauce and stuff, so yeah, I didn't think that was anything great. I'm not a huge fan of bugs for food, but they're pretty much all protein and they're easier to harvest, so someday we may move more into eating more bugs. Octopus and gator. I've had octopus and gator. I've had both of those before. Poor old pigeons. They got a few deal. Raw deal. That makes more sense. Thank you, Joe. Yes. The cicadas were extra loud this past year, were they? Yeah, I wasn't living in D.C. anymore for the last one. I was out here in the Seattle area. I didn't have too much of a problem trying them because they were so annoying. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll eat some of these guys. Hey Chris, if I were to make a comic book channel, should my first video be my love for Erik Larsen and Savage Dragon, or my disgust for Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Strikes Again? My opinion, go for the thing that you love. I think that that's a little bit more of a positive way to look at comics. It's okay to look at bad things sometimes, but if you're just starting out, yeah, like why not try to grab an audience that also loves comics, right? And then maybe once you've done a few things that you love, then criticize something that you don't like, because you've also sort of established your bona fides, like why they should trust you on something that you don't like, and that's also something that's been talked about many times. So you kind of like don't want to start off with, you know, reviewing something that a lot of people say they hate. You're gonna just sort of get lost in the crowd there. Just my 2 cents. I think that talking about Erik Larsen and Savage Dragon would be way more unique and would get you the audience that you want. But that's just my 2 cents, since you asked. Thanks for asking. Did anyone used to watch Bizarre Foods? No, I've never heard about that one. But thinking of sort of like a food-related show, Chrissy and I just discovered Is It Cake? Which is a show on, what do you call it, on Netflix, where contestants literally try to make cakes that look like regular objects to trick judges and win prizes. It's pretty entertaining and kind of satisfying to see things that look like a real object get cut into, and then nope, it's cake. I like it, and it's funny. It's hosted by Mikey Day from SNL. I think he's a pretty funny guy. I wouldn't have thought I liked it, but yeah, I do like it. Hey, Mandela. Well, is it? Yes, it is cake. I enjoyed Is It Cake. Nice. See, we like each other, huh? Speaking of Erik Larsen, any thoughts on Image's impact on the industry 30 years after its formation? Its impact is almost hard to calculate how big an impact those guys have had, because how many extra voices have they given rise to, and how much have they built out the way that, you know, creators can have their rights protected and it's accepted. You know, there'd been lots of attempts along the way and a few other creator-owned imprints here and there, but nothing had succeeded on the level that Image Comics has. Boy, do I admire what they've created. Yeah, Image Comics is pretty amazing. I don't know what to say, like, you know, without like having time to like really argue out my thoughts, but super important company to the industry. Just a game changer. I'm really glad that I was there as a young reader to sort of witness the changes, like before and after. It was very cool, very cool. You know, these days, a book like, you know, back in the 80s, for instance, like Ninja Turtles is like a surprise hit. And you'll still get some of those, but a lot of times they will come through Image these days, you know? Walking Dead. Yeah. I remember in the early aughts wanting so badly for people to talk about geeky things that they love with the same passion and detail that everyone was doing with parody reviews. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Chris, it sounds like... wait, you could only make it through 10 minutes of Is It Cake? It does seem like it's a parody show, but I feel like it's pretty entertaining. I wouldn't have expected it to be. I haven't watched it all though, so maybe I will get burned out on it, but so far I kind of like it for what it is. Tell you what I'm going to do for a moment here. I am going to break out the old kneaded eraser and start cleaning this up, because I've obviously done a fair amount of the inking that I need to do, and there's a lot of superfluous lines here that can go bye-bye. Let's see. People talking about some nice audiobooks. Cool. Always good to share with each other. It's the best way to discover new things, in my opinion, from recommendations. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be doing my show. I'm trying to recommend things that I think are interesting or unique. Yeah. Supersonic. Ever read Brandon Graham's Prophet? No, what's that? Is that a comic or a book? What is that? I have not read it because I don't know it. Or I don't know it because I haven't read it. Either way, two things are for sure. One, I haven't read it. Two, I don't know what it is. Those are two things I can promise you. There's not many things I can promise you, but I can promise you that I don't know what that is. I can also promise you that I haven't read it. Aside from that, I can't promise much. I've gotten some great recommendations from people on these live streams. Much appreciated. That's so nice to hear. I'm always trying to build a intelligent, caring community with this YouTube channel that just, appreciates the medium of storytelling and then can therefore give each other good recommendations. Take it from there. Can you promise justice for Gotham? I can. I can promise vengeance. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle that kneaded eraser around. I'm singing the kneaded eraser song. What do you guys think? Do you think the kneaded eraser song is going to take off on TikTok? Do you think it's going to be the game changer that the comic industry needs to get into the social media game? I'm talking about that kneaded eraser. Yes, sir. I don't think that this is going to change much. Let's see. Going to bed. All right, Samuel, you are allowed. Promote the Discord? Yeah, sure. There's a Discord. If you just Google Comic Tropes Discord, you'll find the link if you're curious. I gotta be honest, guys. I don't understand Discord very well, so I post to it some, but I don't know how to engage with it very well. That's just a social media channel that I'm not great at. But I do have a Discord, and there seems to be a lot of really passionate comic book fans in it that talk to each other about comic related things and share recommendations. So that's why I keep it up. Will Smith will be Slapshot. He will. How do you feel about companies canceling Will Smith's projects? Do you think he will come back as Deadshot? I don't know. I don't think it's likely, just because at this point, isn't Bloodsport kind of more interesting? Nothing against Will Smith, even. I don't think he made much of an impact in that role. He's certainly had other roles that are better. Should he lose acting roles over what he did? Probably not, I would say. But I do think he was completely in the wrong. And that's not to say that what Chris Rock did as his joke was in the right. But you know what? At this point, we're like 2 weeks in. You've all heard every take you probably could possibly hear about that. So mine is not going to change anything. So I guess I just don't have anything to add of significance. I'll leave it there. But I would be surprised, I guess, to see Will Smith come back as Deadshot. I just don't think that they're going in that direction. I'll be honest, I'm expecting them to do Crisis on Infinite Earths really fast and just reboot their shared universe. And therefore just sort of keep a shared universe. I expect them to do something like that real soon. And just keep what works and throw out whatever hasn't. Or Flashpoint, but either way, just like a reboot. I had to get my kids to give me pointers on Discord. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Just so that I don't feel like the only one who's having trouble figuring it out. A few days ago, and it feels like it was a few years ago that the Oscars took place. It feels like we've been hearing about them forever. Probably did too much black for this jackal on his head, because now everything else kind of looks not quite right by comparison. So I'm going to try something. I don't know if it's going to work, but give me a sec. I'm going to try something. Speaking of Flash, I wonder what they'll do with Ezra Miller now. Yeah, I could have talked about that in the news. For the second time, Ezra Miller got himself in trouble for beating someone up, or at least attacking someone. He's done this before. He doesn't seem to be the most stable individual, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know if they really want him as he's sort of the only Justice League guy that's still yeah, I'll do whatever you want. It seems like you're hearing about it forever because the Oscars have been forgettable for a decade. They've always been forgettable. How much time is Ezra Miller getting? I don't think he's getting any. He's a celebrity, man. They don't go to jail. How dare you even insinuate that they should? How dare you? There are betters. They deserve special treatment and love and respect and admiration. We love our celebrities, no matter what. That's the rule. Everybody got it? Laying on the sarcasm too thick. I'm just running out of energy, I think. I think it's about time to wrap up the stream, because it's been 2 hours, and it's pretty hard to keep my energy high beyond that, just because I'm the only one here. If I had a co-host or something that could help, or somebody that was changing up the camera angles or something, I could have more energy. I just need something to bounce off of, and you guys do give me that, but it's also just hard to constantly I'm looking here at the art, here at my camera, here's my screen. Like, it does get hard. Like, it's hard for me to keep my energy up without a lot of careful planning. That's why I get the news bits before I start the show. That's why I lay out a little bit of this sketch before I start inking it. But thank you for your patience with all of that. I always have a great time talking to all of you about comics. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Robert Downey Jr. was in celebrity limbo for a long time. He was. He was always a great actor, but yeah, he had his problems with drugs and stuff, and that sidelined him to a large degree. Understandably so. You know, like, that's a risk for a company. Like, if something happened in the middle of a film, like where you lose your actor, that's a danger. But he seems to have really done a great job with his recovery. So kudos to him. That can't be easy. Let's see. You're a wonderful host. You're a wonderful guest. Let's see. Marvin, thank you so much. I propose myself as co-host. I don't know how I would honestly even do that right now. Like, I mean, I'd need a producer type of person to sort of like be physically present. All I can say is, if my show continues to do well, I probably would, instead of sort of like using what is sincerely just like a fold-up table desk here in my basement for this show, I would consider renting out like a small sort of office or studio of some sort where I could do both, you know, my comic tropes episodes and my live streams like this. You know, have an area where I could put up a green screen so that I could sort of do some funny little bits within my videos. I think that would make my life a lot easier. Yeah, I would love to have something like that, whereas I'm sort of using areas in my house that are used for other purposes as well. Makes it a little tricky, but just something I'm thinking about for the future. Anyway, I think that that'll do it for this stream. Here's my Moon Knight beating up a jackal. Yeah, you know what? I say I'm done. I'm going to add just a little bit more, because to me this jackal hand doesn't quite look hairy, or it doesn't quite look like his. So I gotta just do a little bit more to it. And that'll give me the peace of mind to know that I can wrap my show up on a good note. Anybody watch Moon Knight? Did they like it? I liked it. Like I said, it is a slow burn so far, but I'm okay with that. I think that they're doing some interesting stuff to make me care about the characters, which should pay off later as soon as they do some big action. A co-host sounds nice. A co-host could be fun. You know, there's a lot of like existing comic book YouTubers that I respect, so I would consider something like that. It's just having a co-host that's virtually there is a different dynamic than if I could literally have somebody present that I could like feed off of. I feel like I could produce a funnier and more engaging show. So that's something I'm open to, but I sincerely just don't know anyone local that would work for. So who knows? Maybe I'll have to move to New York or LA or something like that to make that happen. Get some of my celebrity friends, right? I'll get like Robert Kirkman or Dr. Ken Jeong. They'll be my like. They would definitely bring in a bigger audience than me. Bring in some of my more famous friends. Chris, thank you so much for that super chat. Very kind of you. Good night. Stay safe. Yes. I think you missed the 100 super chat. No, didn't I acknowledge Marvin's super chat? Hold on. He said, Marvin said I proposed myself as co-host, and that's what got me talking about co-hosts. Yeah, I acknowledged it. I super appreciate it. Super appreciate it. Yeah. Are they going to bring in Werewolf by Night? I don't know about that, Mandela Butterfly, but I do know for a fact they are filming a Werewolf by Night special for Disney Plus, like a one-episode special about that character. They're going to start doing a few more like experimental things like that. And you know what? If you want to do that with just one episode to see how much people care about it, awesome. Probably a better use than like forcing 13 episodes down my throat, right? bring in Godzilla Mendoza as co-host. Obviously a funny guy, but yeah. Well, and you guys are like saying, a 100 super chat. Just to be 100% clear, that's $100 Mexican. Not quite the same as $100 US. Like I'm not gonna ignore, a 50-cent super chat. Just to be clear, I'm super grateful for what Marvin just did. Marvin Nation is here most weeks. He's active in comments on my videos, as well as the live chat. I super appreciate it. I hope I've made that clear. Marvin Nation, I appreciate you. I'm glad to have you aboard. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to call it, guys and gals and all. Thank you all for being here. We'll have another episode next week. I know that there's some great comics coming out on Wednesday, so it should be a really fun one. Who knows what kind of wild news will come up in the week until then. And I got to think of what I'm going to draw next time. So if you have opinions, feel free to comment on this video, not just in the live chat, but later when this is archived. Comment on this video, or check me out. I'm on social media, C-Tropes on Twitter, or just look up Comic Tropes on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. There's also Comic Tropes on Instagram. There's a Discord. There's Facebook. There's both a Facebook page and a group, depending on how you want to engage. There's a lot of different areas. I try to check them all. I will admit that Twitter is the one I use the most. But yeah, if you've got opinions on what you think I should draw, let me know somewhere. I did receive a $100 super chat. Did I? Anyway, I appreciate them all. You guys are the best. Sincerely. I want you to keep reading comics. That's what I want you to do. And I will be back here soon to talk about more comics, but you will see me before then. I'm trying to decide right now whether I want to do a funny episode of Comic Tropes or a serious deep dive. I'm really trying to juggle those. I'm going to decide tonight, but we'll have to figure it out. Let me know on social media if you have a strong opinion. Take care, everybody. You're all the best. And now, the awkward time where I just wait for a minute before I can end the stream so that I don't cut myself off. Take care, everybody.